Her henna'd bob contrasted wonderfully with her new écru sheath, and she was especially proud of the bright blue sash that showed off her small waist. It perfectly matched her tiny clutch purse and tea-strapped pumps. Like the dress, the shoes were handmade, the shoe on the left built up to accommodate her shorter leg. Wearing it, she hardly limped at all. When Zoe was 8, she had so badly broken her leg in a fall that even a year spent in traction hadn't managed to correct its now shorter length. But again, c'est la vie. 10 sweltering minutes after leaving the house, Zoe reached the Vaugirard passage, an alleyway crammed between Rue Vaugirard and Rue de Rennes. Once she entered the narrow alley, Montparnasse's tall limestone buildings receded, as did much of the street noise. Thanks to the encompassing shadows, the alley was several degrees cooler, and the sparrows nesting in a low-branched chestnut tree trilled in gratitude. But Zoe's 6 years' residency in Paris had taught her a thing or two about its flirtatious weather. Those dark clouds looming in the south had a lot to do with the lowering temperature. They were far enough away, she hoped, not to necessitate a dowdy raincoat. In contrast to larger flea markets, such as the monster by the Porte de Clignancourt, the market she headed toward was relatively small and run by 2 sisters, Véronique and Laurette Belcoeur. It had no protective roof, so even the smallest drizzle would drive the vendors away. When Zoe arrived, the desertion had already begun, with only 5 sales tables left. And no wonder. The market's location, in a narrow space between the shadows of 2 large apartment buildings, funneled a rising wind. However, the remaining tables still displayed a treasure trove of goods, ranging all the way from rhinestone-studded cigarette holders to children's toys to hand-carved African masks. Once Zoe squeezed past 2 long-skirted Frenchwomen competing for the same iron cookpot, she spotted blonde Laurette, the sister who'd sold her the now-ruined clock. Laurette had changed dramatically since last summer. No longer an ingenue, she'd entered the full bloom of womanhood. Her wheat-colored hair, which last year had fallen past her shoulders, was now cut into a severe bob that accentuated her startling beauty. And, as if to broadcast her sales savvy, instead of wearing the drear clothes worn by the other saleswomen, she sported a maroon-trimmed pink linen frock that wouldn't have seemed out of place on a cinema star. The dress's beauty was somewhat diminished by its short sleeves, which revealed a series of bruises marching along its wearer's arm. Zoe frowned. Those bruises hadn't been there the last time she'd visited the flea market. But the young woman was smiling, a sincere smile, too, not the smile of a woman who'd been ill-used. Relieved, Zoe's eyes lit on Laurette's sparkling amethyst earrings. Who would have guessed that trading in used items could lead to such opulence? The offerings on her table, however, some junk certainly, but some treasures too, especially among the clocks. After a narrow-eyed study of the table's offerings, Zoe spotted an Art Nouveau clock lurking behind an obviously fake Louis XIV. No fragile porcelain on the Art Nouveau. The brass and mahogany clock stood almost a foot high, its round clock face supported by 2 serpentine legs. Between them dangled a long, penis-shaped pendulum that made Zoe grin. Très naughty. Hoping Laurette hadn't noted her delight, she asked, "How much?" 96 francs. As you can see, it even has the original wind-up key. Apparently, Zoe hadn't stopped grinning soon enough. Not that 96 francs was as much as it sounded. After the war, the French economy had collapsed, and now it took 12 francs to make up $1 American. Still, the price seemed high, so Zoe settled in for some serious haggling. Looking at the clock more closely, I can see a scratch on the base, and what looks like a paint blister on that suggestive pendulum. Why, it's in such poor shape that I doubt it can even keep time, so I'd say even half of what you're asking is too much. For an answer, Laurette wound the clock, and it responded with a healthy tick, 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 while the minute hand started its slow tour around the pristine face. "Okay, so it works," Zoe admitted, "but the price is still unreasonable."